What's up, everybody? Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Thanks for tuning in. We are in the middle of a series where we've been taking a short look at these incredible, countercultural, counterintuitive sayings of Jesus right at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5 called the Beatitudes, where Jesus describes the characteristics of someone who is truly blessed, fulfilled, and at peace. Except those characteristics don't look like what our world defines as blessed. Instead of saying stuff like, blessed are the comfortable, blessed are the wealthy, blessed are the powerful, Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Those are the first three. Like Jesus says, to fully experience the beauty of God's kingdom, you gotta first turn from your self-sufficiency, turn from your sin, and turn from your selfishness. Which kind of begs the question, turn to what? Like if I gotta turn from all that stuff, what am I turning to? And Jesus actually answers that question with the fourth Beatitude. And this one is actually smack dab in the middle because it's the big idea of the Beatitudes. What he says in Matthew 5 verse 6 is the heart of the Bible. It's the heartbeat of the gospel. Jesus says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. And time out, there's something I don't want us to miss. It's just a universal truth in this world that we gotta grasp before I explain this any further. Notice what Jesus doesn't say. He doesn't say, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for blessing, or for blessedness. He says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for something more, something beyond blessing. It's just a law of the universe that if your ultimate goal is happiness, you will never find it. If that's your end game, you're never gonna get there. Aim at heaven and you'll get earth tossed in. Aim at earth and you'll get neither. And that's not just a philosophical law, it's a physical one too. You can ask a chemist. There are some things that can only be produced in this world as byproducts. They can't be created or discovered directly. They're only the result of something else. And the Bible says that's blessedness. That's peace, fulfillment, shalom, a space where nothing is missing and nothing is broken in our lives. It's not a thing on its own, discoverable outside of God's kingdom and God's righteousness. It's a byproduct of seeking those things and shaping our life like Jesus. And step one of hungering and thirsting for that kind of righteousness is admitting we don't have it. It's admitting that we can't produce it on our own, that what we desperately need, only God can provide. Which kind of sounds like a depressing thing to admit, but honestly, it's liberating and it brings peace and blessing to our lives. And here's how. Let me break this beatitude down into three parts. To get this blessing, one, you gotta hunger and thirst. Two, you gotta hunger and thirst for a righteousness you don't have and cannot produce. And three, you gotta be filled with that outside righteousness. And I think we can admit that most of us in America don't know what it is to truly be desperately hungry or thirsty. But when Jesus says we need to hunger and thirst here, that's what he's talking about. He's saying you gotta want it like your life depends on it. Like you don't have it, but you know you need it or you're gonna be a goner. I love the way Psalm 42 describes this kind of longing. It says, as a deer longs for streams of water, so my soul longs for you, my God. And so Jesus kicks off this beatitude by saying, like, look, this blessedness starts with coming to a place in your life where you realize that everything about you, your life and your future depends on getting this thing that you do not have. Like in life, you don't hunger or thirst for food or water you have. You eat it or drink it if you have it. You long for food and water you don't have. And that's the same thing with righteousness here. Jesus says you need it and you don't have it. So you gotta long for, you gotta hunger and thirst for righteousness. And here's what righteousness means in this context. Approval. The Greek word we translate righteousness literally means to be approved, to be judged worthy and called good enough, to be received and accepted. And can we be real for a second? I'll be real with you. I want that. I think we all want that. All of us have this longing deep in our souls to be accepted. And all of us have some level of anxiety deep in our souls that we aren't good enough and that we aren't accepted. And that's not because we need a big old shot of self-confidence. It's because something inside of us, whether we can pinpoint it or not, is conscious of the fact that we aren't good enough and we can't do enough to merit acceptance from a God that we've rejected and offended. We know we're not righteous, that we're not right with God, and hungering and thirsting for righteousness starts with this realization that we aren't acceptable to God. We aren't right all on our own because of the broken things we've done. because of all the ways we've held a hand up to our Creator and hurt people that He created. Like, that's the root of all human anxiety. This idea that God is displeased with us and we can't merit our own salvation. And I know some of you don't like that. Like, there are a lot of people in our world who just really don't appreciate that idea. We know it's true, but we don't like it that God wouldn't accept us just as we are. We say, well, yeah, I'm poor in spirit. I know I'm a sinner, and I know I've messed up, but I don't deserve to be punished for that. I don't really want justice, for the way that I've hurt people. I want other people to get justice for the way they hurt me, but I don't want justice. I just want God's mercy. I don't want to be punished. And I want you to know, if that's you, you're hungry for a feeling of blessedness. But you're not going to get it because you're not really hungry or thirsty for righteousness. Thirsty to be accepted and counted right by God on His terms, not yours. And if we're going to do that, it means we got to be desperate for a righteousness we don't have on our own. We need to be desperate for His righteousness. And it's interesting here, if you're a language nerd, that the word righteousness is not in the genitive case in Greek, but rather the accusative. And in this sentence, it would normally be a genitive noun. And let me explain this. In English, the genitive is usually formed by the word of. We say, I'm hungry for a piece of cake. I'm thirsty for a drink of water. And what we mean when we say that is I want some. Like when I'm hungry for cake, I don't want all the cake in the world. When I'm thirsty, I don't want all the water in the world. I want a slice of it. I want some. And what you'd expect this verse to say in Greek normally is I want some righteousness. I'm hungry for it. I got to get me some of that. But here it's an accusative noun, which means it's describing a different type of thing. It's saying that those who are blessed, those who are living like Jesus in a broken world, aren't just chasing some righteousness. They're chasing a perfect and a full righteousness, which is a pretty important distinction. Because look, we live in a world full of moralists, like New Age Pharisees disguised as Christians. And they're smug, they're self-righteous, they're judgmental, and they're proud. They look at people who are broken and they're like, just get yourself together like I have. Just follow Jesus like I'm following Him. And they'll say stuff like, oh yeah, I've done some messed up stuff, but look at all the good I do. Let me list off my resume of all the places I serve and all of this. Like, I am pretty great. So many people do that. And you guys, that is anti-gospel. That's hungering for a bit of righteousness, this little piece that we can taste on our own. Just a big enough slice of the cake to keep up appearances and fake it and have the people around you think that you're some sort of awesome. And it's posing and it's garbage. And ultimately, there's only more anxiety to be found by like walking down that pathway. There's not peace in it. And Jesus says that real peace, blessing, happiness are found when we say, I am messed up and I cannot be acceptable to God outside of what God did for me. I am more broken than I'd like to admit, but at the same time, more loved and accepted right in the middle of that because of the death and resurrection of Jesus than I could possibly imagine. Jesus did it all. I surrender completely to Him. I long to shape my life like His life. I long to give up control of my life to Him. Because when I do that, it's His perfect righteousness that counts for me, that fills me up, that leaves me in a place where I am accepted. And in that, in the massive, epic love of God, in what Jesus accomplished for me, in allowing His righteousness to fill me and count for me, in that, I'm blessed.